Thanks so much again. And we are thrilled to present Carol Dietrich, our favorite CMO advisor to Lovable, who took Atlassian public. Welcome to the show. Carol?
Sorry, just getting off of mute here and video. So excited to be here, Julia. Thank you for having us. And huge thanks and round of applause to Julia for amazing work to bring so many fantastic people together and to challenge us to think forward. So thank you, Julia, for everything you do. I'm so excited to be here today with a super killer panel of folks to talk about agents as the distribution channel and the distribution channel for growth. So traditionally, when we've talked about distribution, it's been our historical channels of email, advertising, partners, websites, but now agents are becoming the channel through which we're selling to a buyer on the other end who's researching, comparing different options, and in e-commerce even potentially starting to put things into carts and buy them. And so we're starting to see this emerging field where agents will become the buyer, specifically going out and researching on behalf of their agent operator, and agents as the operator within a company, creating the answers for the company to talk to buyers. And what's going to really get crazy here shortly is when agents are talking to agents and humans aren't even necessarily in the conversation. It changes everything about the way we think about creating our websites, the content we share, the way we nurture leads, the way we track who knows about us already. So marketing is going to be turned on its head here shortly, and I have this amazing group here to talk about some of the implications of what we're seeing already and give you some of our predictions for what's coming next. So first, let's just get a roundup of each of our speakers and some of their background in this AI and agent space. Marcel, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Hi, Marcel Santilli here, CEO and co-founder at GrowthX.ai. Prior to GrowthX, I was CMO at a few different companies like Scale AI, DeepGram, HashiCorp, ServiceTitan, leading growth there. And a little bit on GrowthX, we build AI power with experts in the loop systems for companies to grow their content and get more visibility in AI. We are lucky to get to work with companies like Lovable and Ramp and Webflow, SentinelOne, and a bunch of others. And so excited to be here.
Great, thanks for joining us. Lisa, would you like to go next?
Sure. So I'm Lisa Sharapata, and I'm currently the VP of AI and go-to-market strategy at Metadata. But I've been in the B2B tech space for well over a decade and in marketing like twice as long as that to age myself. And it's been really cool to see how things have evolved. Metadata's been around for about a decade now as well, and is a digital ad platform. But seeing how AI and the agents that they're building is really just completely changing the shape of how I'm going to market and how marketers can do their digital ads and be thinking about orchestrating the entire go-to-market strategy has been really cool. So I'm excited to share some of what I'm seeing.
Great, thank you. Omer, do you want to go next?
Sure, and thank you everyone. Excited to be here. Omer Gottlieb, previously co-founded Tutango, the customer success platform. I'm the CEO, co-founder of SalesPeak, and in a nutshell, we're trying to improve the B2B buying experience by providing an intelligent conversation layer between a buyer and a company. So if a buyer, by the way, a human being, Carilla, or maybe their agent, if they interact today with a company, they need to speak with a static website or with an inexperienced SDR or with a stupid email, and we enable those kind of conversation to be much more intelligent. And thank you again.
And Kevin, do you want to go next?
Sure. Thanks, Carol. Everyone, pleasure to be here. Kevin Marasco, four-time CMO, currently Chief Growth Officer at Tebra, helping independent healthcare practices apply HR, which is a massive opportunity in and of itself, because I can't think of an industry in the US that's more ripe for modernization than healthcare, and helping supercharge healthcare providers with so much burnout, and if not more even more excited is about applying AI to totally transform how we do all aspects of go-to-market. In my few decades, I've never seen anything disrupting so fast or as furious as what we're seeing right now, and really excited to be here.
Thank you. And Tuba?
Thanks so much for having me. So my name's Tuba. I'm the CEO and founder of Amoeba AI. We're a neurosymbolic AI platform that's building the new brain for your business. So we have agents that get deployed on top of your data to take a look at what's happening in your business and to give you recommendations before they actually offset your business. But by background, I'm a data scientist, previously VP of Product at Qualified, and very happy to be here today.
Great. Like I said, such a killer panel. Some of the brightest minds I know that Julia helped me recruit. So thanks for joining me. Let's just talk about what we mean by agents first, because I think there's really this agent washing going on. If everything's an agent, is nothing an agent? Or if every LLM is an agent, does it denigrate what we actually mean by agents? Who wants to weigh in first here?
I want to take it for a second because I think I agree. I think there's a lot of chaos and unclear about what is an agent, what is agentic marketing. I attended Inbound, the conference last week, and every booth there we were doing agentic marketing, and nobody really understands what it is. I don't think that's that important, but for this discussion, I would frame agent or an agentic marketing into some kind of an intelligent entity that can actually run workflows and take actions for you. So that's a combination of some things. And of course, the implication, you could say that almost every product may or may not have an agentic component to that as well, but completely chaotic right now.
Yeah, and so not just researching your product in LLM, but having more autonomous actions that it's taking and more orchestrations and even deciding things on its own. So, in e-commerce, we're already starting to hear about people having agents which can shop on their behalf, add things to cart, and potentially even check out. In B2B, we're in a much different space, although B2B is always following a fast follow to B2C. But many of us on the phone are already seeing a ton of agent traffic to our websites. And Marcel, that's one of the areas that your company focuses on. What are you seeing in agent shopping? How are the agents performing? How are these leads that are coming to websites converting?
Yeah, so the way to think about it is your first sales call for B2B, your first sales call is happening outside of your website now and your conversations, because in AI answers, people are spending on average of 15, 20 minutes kind of researching it. And it's almost like these people are ingesting that information as the gospel, right? And they're thinking of it as like expert advice. So it's almost the equivalent of word of mouth. So then by the time, if you do show up in those answers and they come to your website, they're converting, and we see with some of our customers 3 to 5 times higher. So the value of that traffic that does end up coming to you is such higher intent that is so much more valuable. And it's not like search is going away and there's no traffic there. And so I think it's similar behavior to e-commerce, except in the e-commerce, you're checking out in a cart and people are aggregating and curating items, and then you're finishing the checkout. Whereas in B2B, because the process is longer, they're doing a lot more of the research they would do post-sales earlier on. And then they're giving a lot more context on who they are, their company, and everything about them, which means companies have to figure out how to build this really high quality, credible content engine that ends up getting cited and show up in these answers to be part of it, right? And the quality bar is even higher, and the long tail is even longer, which now means you have to hit both the speed, volume, and quality in order to win. Yeah.
But some of the results are showing up really quickly. I mean, one of the things that's so amazing about the new agents, I guess the new ways of indexing, is that some of your new content can show up in a couple of days, whereas in SEO it used to be 6 months sometimes before you changed, right? The agents are moving quickly.
With Augment Code, one of our customers, I think that within an hour of publishing something, we saw one of their answers changing completely. The context, the way the wording was kind of done. And so the way I like to think about it is we're like an inception engine, essentially, except that inception engine actually has to build credibility with your customers as well, because you can't say the wrong things either.
And Kevin, you guys are doing all sorts of Q&A work and have a bunch of agents that interact with different customers that come to the website, including like a virtual human, a superhuman, right? Or are you still experimenting with that?
We are. I think for us, I mean, from a B2B standpoint, like I first thought about it as maybe not like agent informed buying, or I thought of it as not agent buying, but actually agent informed buying, where kind of to Marcel's point, like agents are, the whole top of funnel is being disrupted. So it's thinking about like how agents are transforming the consumption side, but then also we have to be thinking about and changing how agents change the distribution side, right? And so for us, that's automating through an automated system of agents, how they engage buyers through all channels, including, first of all, identifying targets, but then engaging through email, chat, and then voice and actual interactions on the website. And so we're testing, all of those channels really.
And that leads us right to our next question, which is as agents, instead of agents as the buyer, agents as the distribution. Tuba, you are doing a lot of work with roadmaps that are including agent-to-agent information requests, and you're kind of leading in this space. Talk to us a little bit about agents as the distribution.
Yeah, we're an intelligence platform, and a lot of folks want to kind of see the intelligence being converted into some sort of an action. And then they don't want to be the ones who are orchestrating that action, right? As long as they're trusting the insights, etc. So we get requests on agent-to-agent communication in terms of orchestrating something in other platforms, or in terms of sharing information as well. If I think of kind of Lisa's product as well, like potentially like creating campaigns and metadata, etc. So more and more we're going to see that you use agent-to-agent interaction for the grunt work as long as you're approving the recommendation.
And Lisa, you guys have rolled out an MCP offering recently and are kind of pretty deep in this agent world. Like, tell us more how you're thinking about it as distribution.
Yeah. So less on the consumer side right now, it's more agent to agent, like you said. So thinking about things like, how do I analyze current campaigns? So there's multiple agents that actually takes to do that. So looking at performance, looking at different experiments that have been run, different budget groups, different audiences, to identify kind of what kind of the best use case would be. And then you can, inside of Claude today, because of this MCP server connector, which I'll be showing after this, it's kind of complicated, right? Sounds complicated. These agents are all talking to each other. So I can create a new campaign with that information. I can build new audiences. I can dedicate budget, and I can deploy it right from Claude today. And another example would be, we have a bid agent that sits inside of our platform, but it works with LinkedIn. So if you turn it on, it's figuring out the LinkedIn algorithm. It's adjusting your ad spend within the limits you've defined, and it's autonomously making decisions based on the criteria that you've set for it on your behalf 24/7. But it's like a toggle on, toggle off. You set the parameters, you can change the parameters, and then it's making decisions for you.
And Kirill, I wanna double down for a second on agentic distribution, and I want to warn the audience from a trap that a lot of companies are falling into. I don't know about you, but when I open my email every day, in my inbox every day, there are 15 messages that look the same. Omer, quick question. Omer, can you join my podcast? When I look at my LinkedIn post, I see comments that it's clear the AI actually wrote them. So I think some people say, hey, it's very easy. Let's take an AI agent, buy it or develop it that can produce some content, and let's just put it out there. And the problem is there are 100,000 people actually doing that, not in a very intelligent way. And we, if we wear our buyer's hat for a second, are being spammed and flooded. And so I think one of the most common traps that I see is people use AI, but not intelligently. They use AI to simply automate broken processes. And I think the best example that I have personally is, think about those AI SDRs and things like that. Did you ever want to speak with an SDR? Why would I want to speak with an AI SDR? So why are we taking an SDR and amplifying it? We want to do something different. And I think AI has the opportunity to do that. So when you think about using agentic distribution, it's not about the automation. Automation is an important part of it, but I think it's much more about the intelligence that you put inside, the experience that you put inside, and I think we can do great things with it.
Can I add a lens to that? I think I'll push back on receiving massive amounts of kind of AI inbound, etc. The piece that you're missing is the agent on your side, essentially. So you could say, hey, I'm only interested in, say, like speaking on podcasts. We never close the loop, right? Essentially that way. If it was agent to agent, I bet it would be really useful because you would only get filtered messages that are like essentially relevant to you. But to your point, we rushed to automation and we like forgot to kind of bridge that gap.
I agree.
I think
it's funny, not on the agent topic, but one of my old colleagues is the VP of marketing at Deal, and they did their ad campaign with VO, totally AI generated video that looks so amazing. And she's like, we did it in just a couple days instead of weeks. And I ended up talking to her about it. And they have a pretty extensive video and design team that has a lot of specialty. There was a producer, and they looked at costume design and characters and storyboards. Like they went through a bunch of thinking processes to then use VO in 2 days to create something amazing. But I guess kind of coming back to what you're saying, Omar, what it really reinforced to me is that the AI can be so powerful if it's built on top of people with knowledge doing something interesting, right? Like no one wants to replicate the annoyance of like forms and an uninformed reach out that's like gets you everything wrong. But if it was like, you know, some of these forward deployed engineers that developer companies are employing as their SDRs, who are like, instead of like trying to qualify you, there's like, hey, you know, do you want some sample apps? Like, here's some common problems people have. If you have any problems like setting up, I'm here for you. Like, if we can really like create the ideation to create the agent that's actually really helpful, it could be delightful, and then humans can be there at the right time. You know, the dream is better than just like the perpetuity of horrible agent emails in our inboxes.
that's funny.
Well, just to circle back on what I was trying to get across too, is that these agents can get you so far, and actually you could even just say, build it and deploy it, right? But the human in the loop is, I think, very relevant still in the example I was giving as well, where you're looking at what was analyzed and you're still making strategic decisions. And, you know, I can still push back and say, okay, well, I really need to generate this much pipeline in this short of time, and I only have $20,000, not 30. So can, you know, you help me reimagine it based on that, not just like running, you know, wild with no guardrails. And same thing with the bidding. Like no one wants to sit there and bid on campaigns 24/7, trying, you know, moving it up $1 and down $1. So I think that there's really great use cases that can help free up capacity to be more creative and more thoughtful and try different things, and then, you know, automate things that frankly like no human could really even do at that scale. So, you know, back to what you were saying, Omar, too, is it's not just, you know, throw an agent on that and spit out 5x more emails to people. That's, I don't think, a responsible use of distribution.
So there's these two aspects we talked about when we were prepping, about agents as the interface, like the buyer who's coming to our website, and agents as the operator, and the operator being the one who's like compiling the information. Kevin, you've done some of the more advanced operator agents that I've seen. I know you have one for competitive battle cards. You have one for customer references. You have some that are tied together for a number of different steps that inform each other. Like, talk to us a little bit about agents as the operator inside the company doing the selling.
Yeah, I think you know, what's key is not just, we had like base level automation, and I think the trap here is just automating something, right, making it a bad process. So how do we take agents and apply it to up level what is the art of the possible and what you could do, and that with the increased like context library and the speed to be able to analyze, execute, make decisions, and give agency to the agents, it unlocks on the operating side, some pretty exciting things. So I think for me, it first started where we always want more resources, right? And what could we do with more resources? And you can apply it to whatever area of your funnel or growth lever you have. And historically, I think, oh well, we had another product marketing team was 3 times as big. We could create more battle cards and enablement content and help our sellers convert more. Well, now with agents, we could take that work and we could scale. But what the important part is, we got to scale it like in an intelligent way and do the right things. And like Omer's SDR's example, yeah, you could just take an agent and send more emails faster. But I think that's the trap we have to avoid. Like, how can we make that experience better for the buyer, where what maybe was the job of the historic SDRs we've known over the past couple of days, but supercharge them with information to be hyper consultative and guide the buyer through their buying journey and add value to the experience. I think like that's been for me the trap is like it usually starts with, hey, it unlocks this incredible amount of scale and leverage, but then also have to like jump to, hey, how do we do it in a smarter, better way to make a better, buying experience and a better, selling experience too. But I've really tried to take a lot of the jobs to be done and try to figure out, how do we scale it, but also how do we do it better?
It's funny because, the Gartner hype cycle curve where you get so excited and then you enter the trough of disillusionment and then you come back up on the I don't know, hill of value, whatever it's called. Like one of the things I've heard is people got so excited about their agents, they went out and built all these agents and they have all these agent team members. And then the GM of AI for Microsoft and I were speaking in another CMO event last week, and she was saying after they'd created so many agents, they ended up in this like agent overload spot where like there were too many agents and it was too confusing and the agents were kind of overwhelming, and then they ended up kind of coming out of that trough of disillusionment back to value to kind of rationalize. So it does feel like we're in the like agent propagation phase right now where we've created agents for everything and then maybe it's going to come back and rationalize. And one funny example, I know, Marcel, you guys have an agent that's a fact-checking agent, which literally goes to fact-check all your agents who might be doing things wrong. You want to talk to us a little bit about developing that?
Yeah, like I think one thing that is so important that a lot of people miss is starting with outcomes and working your way backwards. It's no matter if it's agent, deterministic AI workflows, or automation or not at all. It's like you need to figure out how to get to great. Like going fast in the wrong direction is actually worse than going slightly slower in the right direction. So it's like agents doing the wrong things are off. And if you don't have a way to evaluate what the agents are doing, and the agents are not going to do well because they don't know how to even like self-criticize and self-correct and follow like a bigger plan if you don't have the right context. So in this example of the fact checker, we have this workflow that breaks down a piece of content into chunks and then analyzes what parts of the chunk have different passages and comes up with questions to go answer, and then does deep research in parallel with all those questions, and then comes up with a confidence score or whether or not those statements are true or if there's any misplacement or inaccuracies or better ways to do it. And then it fetches the writing guideline and then auto-corrects anything that has a strong confidence that it's not factual or that it's misleading in some ways, right? But that's only one step of the job to be done, and it's all based on the definition of quality. So we have a customer in the healthcare space. There's a lot of medical aspects to it. A company like SentinelOne or Normal Security or Augment Code, they're more technical. There's other aspects to it. And so it's not about having one agent that then abstracts the whole thing away. It's figuring out what are all the steps that to get to great outcomes and outputs, and then figuring out where you have enough confidence by having experts in the loop that then you can delegate to an agent, because then you know how to evaluate. And so I think that kind of just shifts where humans are going from not just the output bar raisers and process architects, but also getting the right inputs.
And Omer, we were talking before, kind of like leading on from that there's also this transition period. Agents aren't the only ones coming to our websites right now. Humans are still coming to our websites too. In fact, from a website traffic, sorry, I guess that stat doesn't apply as well. But how are you thinking about this parallelizing experiences for humans and experiences for agents? Are we going to end up with like hidden things on our websites or parallel websites, or how do we navigate when the distribution channels are multiple right now?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and definitely we are in a transition phase. I'm sure that in the future it will be full agent to agent, because why not? It's going to be very smart and easy to do, but I don't think the technology is there right now. I do see even now, we offer our customers a way to actually have a shadow website. So one website is fully designed, optimized for human being accessing you, and the other one is, when LLM is accessing you, and not always it's the same thing. LLM is asking a couple. In a human being, you know what they're asking, you understand what a human being. LLM, you don't know a lot of things, but you need to present other things. The way they actually consume the data is different. Now, again, in the future, it's going to be an agent, and whether there will be a website or not, nobody knows, right? If I have an agent and you have an agent as a company, then why do we need a website? Again, a website will be used for another use as well. So I do think that it needs to be a differentiation between how do we provide information, communication, conversation, whatever we want to call it, to a human being, versus how do we want to provide that communication and conversation to a technology, an agent. I think both of them needs to be different than what we have today. Again, and you know what? I spoke with many marketers recently, and my best advice, which is so naive, but it's actually working, is really design for the buyer, design for the customer. If we understand that the experience needs to be in favor of the customer, then we're going to win. And we've done, even me in my previous company, designing website with forms. That's not good for the buyer. It's good for me, right? Putting a threshold that you have to speak with a junior salesperson in order to get to the right salesperson, and then only he will call the SE if you are qualified. That's not good for the buyer. And the reason we've done it is because that was the only way. And I think the amazing opportunity in AI is really bringing all that kind of amazing service, amazing intelligence, amazing experience up front. And if you think about it, that's the way I think you need to design your website, your content, your email. Anytime you interact with a buyer, you can actually enhance those things.
And it's interesting you to say that, because I do think it's changing the way we think about our org design. So for instance, there's these automated SDR buyers, or superhuman SDRs that can talk to you at any time. But they're really focused on qualifying someone, or the SDR experience. They're like replacing a role we had, which was an SDR. And there's this one company called OneMind, which is Kevin is trying them out, and I've been really intrigued by, because it started out as an AI SE, a sales engineer, which was able to help assist in selling, which has always been a really tight role, because it's such a specialized role and they're so in demand and they're kind of expensive. But this SE could talk to you at any time of day and have all the information. But what OneMind found out was that this SE did a great job of talking to customers, because it had all the information, and it actually does a great job of qualifying. Whereas some of the qualifying tools qualify, but if they run into a customer, the customer has to bounce out and go back into a customer support chat funnel. And when you can have this agent that has infinite knowledge, kind of like the download to Keanu Reeves in The Matrix, you can have one agent that talks to anyone and routes them to the right place and gets them the right information, which kind of totally changes the mindset of the way our teams were organized into new processes. Is just serve the customer and give them all the information they need without the gates. But I think what's terrifying about that from a marketing perspective is how do we track that? How do we know what our revenue is going to be upstream? Because it's people are going to come in 95% qualified, and you're going to be able to see a script maybe of the superhuman, but then the final closing is going to be so small that you don't know what's working until you don't have the revenue. Kevin, you came off mute. Do you have a commentary on this, my rant?
Yeah, I got the, it's a group of marketers, so there's an answer, and of course it's an acronym. It's a AQL, an agent qualified lead. It's just
That's nice.
or a BQL, a bot qualified lead. Yeah, it's but what does that mean, and how does a AQL compare to a traditional MQL and SQL?
I would even argue, do we need to qualify? The reason we had to qualify is because only qualified customers or buyers get the best service. What if we can provide everybody the best service? Again, the challenge would be completely agree with forecasting, because qualification is also good for forecasting. But if we put forecasting aside, maybe, again, I haven't thought about it before this conversation, maybe the notion of the qualified lead doesn't really matter. I mean, what does matter is, okay, do we have a good conversation with the customer? Can we provide value for them? And can we actually move them further? Again, I do agree that things will change, how we measure things, how we focus things, and I have no idea to focus how they're going to look like, but they will be different.
Tuba, did you come off mute? It looked like you had something to say.
Yeah, I think I agree with Omar. I feel like it's a computation problem. Like we can't really compute across everything. We don't have enough capacity for that. So we like create these funnels. But you're right. I think our qualification criteria would either not exist or be super, super open if we get into a world where it's just agent to agent selling. Like there shouldn't be this idea of like, what is the difference between a bulk qualified lead and a human qualified lead? We would do that obviously because incentive structures when you get paid out on leads have to be aligned in that way. But I think in the future, yeah, some of this qualification criteria will like fall off. I totally agree with that.
It's so crazy to imagine everything we know being totally different. It's like how the body regenerates all of its cells in so much time. It feels like the marketing tech stack is changing, the marketing processes are changing, the way buyers buy is changing, the way we evaluate things are changing, potentially the evaluation topics that we use. Like in this world of agent to agent, it seems like trust and safety and governance are going to be really important. Like, in B2C, you might let an agent buy something because it's a small amount and maybe just on a credit card where you could cancel it or something. Are any of you guys kind of thinking forward to this like trust, governance space?
Yeah,
Carolu, I have a question to flip back on you, and it kind of pertains to what we've been thinking about too at Metadata. But so you're fractional for Lovable. Lovable has basically done what Omar and Kevin were talking about, like bringing everything to the surface, right? The product is there. It's very product led. You can play around with it. There's no gates, but it's like you have to unlock, I guess, certain levels to get deeper into it, be able to use it to deploy a site or push something live. Like you have to have enough credits, and you have to have trust to do that, right? And like that's one of the things I've been playing with, like free trials, for example. But someone's going to have to share their LinkedIn information or share their account for their Gmail or whatever it is in order to like let the agent go. So I'm curious, like your thoughts on that, given that you're really leading in that area.
Yeah, I mean, I think trust becomes paramount and potentially a differentiation between different companies. And we've certainly seen that with Anthropic's market positioning coming out of coming out of OpenAI to create this kind of ethical alternative and different features that reinforce trust. So, and Lovable's done different things. Like we had rolled out an agent feature earlier this year that helps reduce errors by 90% by kind of checking over the code and checking over your requests to make the agent work better. So again, kind of a checkbot. And then also a security agent that like reviews everything and makes recommendation about how to make your apps more secure. And for people that don't know, I'm sorry, Lovable is a vibe coding platform, one of the leaders, where you can take an idea to an application just by chatting with AI. And it creates these really gorgeous visual sites that then can be full stack apps and be deployed. And people are starting businesses or prototyping or creating entire products for companies. So yeah, I mean, I think trust and reliability is kind of a centerpiece of AI agent offerings and will continue to differentiate. And always the challenge with that is that it takes a long time to build up trust and not a lot of time to lose it if you do something wrong. And so I think that's why we see so many different security companies and AI security companies really having astronomical momentum, because AI creates so many new vectors for attack and surface areas that really need to be protected.
I think trust is a very serious temporary problem. And the reason I'm saying temporary is we all remember, can I trust to put my data in the cloud, right? Financial data in the cloud. Like, it's a non-issue anymore, and this will be a non-issue. It might take longer or sooner, I don't know. But right now, I think there's two types of trust issues. One, as business executives, do we trust the agents that we actually, build or buy in order to do a good job for us and or put in front of the customers? And even Marcel had a good example. They did not trust their internal agent. They built another agent to actually make sure that they can trust it, which makes complete sense. We also think there's some trust issue from your customers. I mean, can I trust this AI that I'm actually speaking with? I think that's also a done deal. I mean, I don't know about you, but personally, if I have the choice between getting my information from a salesperson, and usually these are junior salespeople at the beginning of the process, versus an AI, my first bet was going to be on the AI. Now, I know I'm an early adopter, but I think more and more people are going to be educated by big companies that, yeah, AI can actually provide, a better solution, a good solution. So I think the trust right now is mainly business owners. Can I trust the AI to do a good job for me? But it is a temporary problem.
I feel like it's inherently a human psyche problem. Humans have a hard time giving up control, so they guise that under trust, quote unquote. I do think it's going to be a little longer than it used to be because you're now talking about systems that are non-deterministic, right? And all of these systems have drift. How many times do we wake up like, one day and we're like, okay, well, the output suddenly changed. So you're going to have to design these systems around trust. And I'll be curious to see where the onus lies. Does it lie on entirely the customer side? Does it lie entirely the builder side on how you reveal like certain things within your product and how things are functioning, how agents are functioning, so people can trust that something good is happening behind the scenes? But I feel like this is going to be a little bit longer than my financial data in the cloud, just because people don't like the notion of like not knowing how exactly something would map out.
Well, financial data in the cloud took a few years. So I think, yeah.
Yeah, I
it takes
think this
time.
was like 5 to 10 is my head, but yeah.
I think one of the things on the trust side is there's the two sides. They're like, is the brand trustworthy, right? Like, can Lovable's apps be secure, and thoughtful and scalable, all of those things. And then there's the trust on the consumer side. And one of the things that I've been surprised by is how authoritative LLMs are in telling you an answer, especially in product comparisons. Like, they'll tell you who's the leader, and then you like click on the little link and look at it and you're like, oh, this is a secondary site that the vendor put up that compares themselves, which creates like slightly less research support than we might have had when we were looking through Google link responses and SEO, and we kind of did our own self-filtering to look at the validity of different websites. Marcel, this is kind of your world, because the way all the content you're generating that shows up in LLMs, from our marketing perspective, we want it to like win the LLM and be authoritative. And then also from the consumer side, we want to be thoughtful about how we're evaluating brands. Like, how are you building trust into the content in a way that even when people kind of click through to really evaluate, they're still trusting what you're doing?
I think this is like at the core of what we do, but also at the core of what everyone has as marketers have to figure out. And so like I'll give a few examples. One of our customers, they're in the women's supplement space, started by a well-known founder, and they have a chief medical officer who has a background in endocrinology and a holistic doctor, right? So we had to set the right contacts. We had the fact checkers. You had all these steps, but then we gave her a piece of content for calibration, this chief medical officer, and she left 30 comments in the document, right? And they were all nuanced medical things. So then we had to reverse engineer those comments to understand like what was about this. It was like an oversimplification of the, how this ingredient plays into your hormones or something like that, right? And so a lot of the trust and quality is not achieved from 0 to 1. When I was at Scale AI, we're doing a lot of work for the Waymos of the world. You don't go from like level 1 autonomy to self-driving Waymo in one system in one shot, right? And it's all about calibrating and setting the right context. And then you have to ground that information on something. Like when we were developing all these integration pages for Webflow, and you go to the Stripe integration page there, like that has to be grounded on their docs. It has to be grounded on something in order to know if it's factual or not, and that's how you build trust. But if you don't have confidence in your grounding and what your source of truth is, then you can't actually go after it. And then the other piece that I would say is a practical piece of advice for everyone is like, use multiple systems. So for instance, like when we're doing a deep research using Exa AI or Tavily to do the deep research, we might use Perplexity's deep research as a fact checker or vice versa. And that way you're using multiple layers, but also don't try to abstract experts in the loop too early before you gain that confidence, you know? And so the way we look at it and measure is how many human interventions are needed in order to get something out, like a piece of content or a page or something that's published. And if it goes from 30 comments to 1 to 0, then you can start to build confidence in those systems. And you need to do that internally first as well. Yeah.
Agents talking to agents, checking agents, agents as the distribution channel. What have you guys seen as being some of the most impactful, like practical examples? I think like we risk being really abstract in our conversation, but practical impacts that you've seen so far of agents in your companies or in your marketing.
Can I give a funny example because I'm not a marketer by background? When I first started this company, I was trying to do my best as much as I could do with some like LinkedIn marketing. And then I was like, I don't feel like I'm doing great, but I feel like I'm doing okay. Took all that data, tossed it at Amoeba, at Neurosymbolic, and it gave me a lot of really good feedback on how like I was basically creating a lot of boredom for my like end users, and the way I was talking about things repetitively. It's not the right kind of fit for the target buyer that I was trying to sell it to. All things that are very obvious to marketers, but maybe not as obvious to folks who are outside of that. And then we kind of evolved that into like, can you run an audit on my LinkedIn as an example, like ever so often? And we've seen a big difference in sort of like how that's materialized in like pipeline for our company. So I think that's an example of for us, like a lot of times folks will say like, I don't have maybe sometimes enough data to get started with agents, etc. That's an example of like, even with a little bit of data, if you get started, the agents will like kind of can help you guide your system in a way that you build better proficiency or competency.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Other examples?
Other one is when we started hiring and accelerating hiring for GrowthX, like we started getting almost 1,000 applicants a day on some roles. And so there's just no way to tackle it. And so one of the ways we did it was kind of decompose the process and recompose it back up. And so we just built a workflow that kind of goes through and gets people to apply and write their answers and some of the questions. And then if they pass that, a process, there's our recruiter in the loop that looks through the best 20% of candidates, passes them through to a video interview. And within that video interview, then we transcribe and do the same process. Then they go through an assessment. And even though that process might sound like a bad experience for the candidates, we actually got a lot of feedbacks because it's like we're asking them for 30 minutes of their time. But in exchange for that, even though they don't talk to a human right away, by the time they do get to talk to us, they're already in the final steps. And so we can go from application to offer in like days instead. And so like that was just like a way to be able, that would have just been impossible to do without actually AI and workflows and agents as well.
I love it.
One of my favorites right now is using agents to twofold on the sales side for coaching, and then on the marketing side, the market intelligence that comes out of that. And I used to, 5 years ago, binge gong calls on 2X to understand what buyers cared about and all that. And now what we've done is trained agents on our sales competencies, what matters for, what our best performing reps look like, what our the SPICE methodology that we use, and then taking every single call, 100% of them, and they're running through the agents and they're analyzing and breaking them down and scoring them on SPICE efficacy or Scoville level, and then taking the data, automatically filling the CRM for the sales rep, so it saves them time, providing coaching feedback to the rep and the manager. And then what I love is getting like these market insight briefs that summarize data from all those calls to understand trends in the market and what's happening and what's not. Hey, we're seeing more of these buyer specialty in our world, and here's some of the emerging pain points, competitive and product insights and things like that. There's no way I could have scaled and done that in the past, but having agents do that without fail for 100% of calls is pretty valuable.
Yeah, that's huge impact.
I'm actually, completely different than my previous company. I'm always thinking how not to hire the next person. Literally, how not to hire the next person. And I think in go-to-market, there are many tools and technologies that you can actually use in order to, do a lot of things that are doing great. And, we've developed an internal signal-based systems. We identify signals from all places, whether LinkedIn or websites or, the drill, and eventually come up to a central intelligence system that tells us what to do. Some of the actions are being taken automatically. I'm very careful with that because eventually it's my brand, it's the company brand. But at least, hey, Omer, you need to pay attention to this. Hey, this person just posted. There's a great article that you actually need to take a look at. Here's the data that we found out from everything. So I would say it's a combination of a set of mini agents. Some of them are inside of products. Some of them things that we've designed internally, but literally help us do a lot of things and go to market that initially I would probably need to hire a lot of people to do that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add up onto what Kevin was saying. I don't know if it's called agency. We had something like that called agency. So it's sitting over the top of the calls and it's analyzing all the information, giving the insights to the sellers, like you described, Kevin. But then I'm actually taking that on the marketing side. I'm pulling that into Manus, which I've found just to be better at analyzing that kind of information. And then I've given it a brand kit and criteria, tone of voice, everything to help turn that into LinkedIn posts. So what are the sentiments we're hearing? What are some themes that are coming up? And then I can actually have basically set up the agents from Manus to schedule posts for me. So it's really powerful. And to your point, like I used to listen to those calls and oh my gosh, I go down into this pit of despair. I'm like, I can't listen to any, but now it's just like I get these insights. It's very helpful and I can get that spun up really quickly into actionable, usable information.
Yeah, I love that, Lisa. We're using a tool called Momentum. It's great, but I love being able to get those insights, but then how do we take that full circle? So now we're able to compress our innovation cycles, right? And how we're able to take that into action on the go-to-market side. And I love how you're immediately chopping that up into content that obviously buyers care about. So I think that's really neat. There's so much we could do with that. It closes the loop in a way we weren't able to do before, or take a lot of time.
And I'm going to share a slide here. I have a blog at carrylou.com called Hypergrowth Leadership. And this was a state of AI and B2B marketing scorecard, which was showing some of the processes that I saw CMOs attacking most. And so we've talked about a lot of those today: content creation, SEO and answer engine optimization, like certainly this SDR and BDR, like these are some of the places where we've seen like it easiest to address some of the challenges. And then some of the others coming farther down the list: the email marketing, the analytics, the ad campaigns, which Lisa was talking about, really in the experimentation phase, moving into the operational phase. And so I think, last year was really an experimental year for marketers. This year's really an operational year for marketers. And even as we're changing from kind of like more simple AI processes to full agents, it seems like there's still this prioritization of where it makes the biggest impact, where we can see the biggest ROI immediately. And this has been a helpful chart for some folks. I'm actually in the middle of doing some research to get this more statistically significant. So I'm going to put in a link in the chat here. But I don't have the link right this second. I will grab it. A link in the chat for the survey that I'm doing to try to determine where are we now and how are agents affecting this? So I will put that in 1 second. How about kind of closing comments, like predictions for the future? Are you bullish that B2B buyers will be buying in agents shortly, or do you think that's still a couple years out?
I'll start. I don't think that people are going to allow an agent to buy for them or make the decision for them right now, but I'm definitely starting to see, people are using some kind of, buying agents to take them 90% to the journey. So eventually, imagine you're an executive and you need to decide on a technology. Basically, what you do is you go to your director and you said, run a project, analyze everything, come back with your recommendation, and let me know who are the top companies that I need to be speaking with. that's a clear job for an AI agent to actually do those things for you. So I definitely see the future, which again, the future could be right now. It doesn't have to be the long-term future, that people are going to rely on their journey and their decision based on AI agents. And I think we as marketers, we have to design for those kinds of experiences. But I don't think people will let AI buy for them.
Other predictions for the future, Kevin, your buying audience is kind of like SMB, and so they're like getting pretty deeply engaged in their off time trying to solve their problems very quickly. It seems like some of your agent responsiveness is like creating more velocity in your sales cycle. Like, what's the next level?
I think, I guess my bold prediction, first of all, this is like changing everything, right? Like as us leading go to every aspect of marketing and sales, content marketing's gone. Now it's like model priming. And so like all those things change. I think stepping back more broadly, I guess my bold prediction is that, we shift from this like world, era of automation and programmatic marketing and predictive AI to generative go-to-market. And how do we think about generative agents and systems that are automating and improving all aspects of the go-to-market and starting to break down silos and close loops. And it might even make some of these legacy conversations, things like attribution and stuff, maybe some of those things go out the window and blow up. So I think I guess that'd be my bold prediction is this like new world of generative go-to-market.
What's the difference between generative go-to-market and automated AI automated?
I think of like automated is like the like a calculator, right? And you have to be very like, okay, 2 + 2 = 4, 2 + 2 = 4. Like that was like the marketing automation system. Send this email, then fill out this form, and not like deterministic. And so now we've gone from the calculator to we have an analyst that can make decisions and do things. And you can say, hey, I want this outcome. I don't go get me, get this form fill, go find me what are the best buyers, go find me 10 more of those, build the sequences, the personalized landing pages, and take it full circle. And so it's like building a more comprehensive system that all works together versus just one like discrete set of tasks.
Like more predictive and responsive. Yeah. Anyone else? Lisa?
I would say, can I jump in really
Yeah,
quickly?
go ahead,
Because you
Tuba.
mentioned predictive. I think we're going to move from predictive into more prescriptive. So not so much reliance on a ton of historical data. Instead, the systems that tell you something is going to go wrong before it goes wrong. And I think that in turn is going to build enough trust that people just like let agents loose. I know we feel like we're further away from that, but I think if I was like a marketer, a CEO of a company, I would pay close attention to the fact that you won't be able to afford to be left behind in this sort of stuff, right? So the more you kind of shy away from it, or the more guardrails you kind of throw around it within reason, I would say you will hinder your own development in that sense. So I think companies will go from like everyone needs to be like AI native or AI powered, all of that, into really understanding what are the systems that are getting me the outcomes that I want, and like then applying those systems at scale.
It's pretty exciting. It's an exciting time to be alive. One more answer, and then let's tell people how to find us or follow up with us. Lisa, were you?
I think that there'll be a learning curve and a scale. So, for example, like, would I be okay letting an agent rent a car for me if I give it parameters on how much to spend on, here's the dates I need, this is the size car I want, I don't want to go over this price. Yeah. But would I want to buy B2B tech with an agent today? No. So I think that there's going to have to be kind of this curve and cycle that's going to take time for, and marketing, even in B2B, to figure out how do you serve up an experience that would make it like safe to go agent to agent. So yeah.
Well, it's been such a pleasure talking to you guys. I was nervous about this topic because I didn't know even what agents were as the distribution channel before I started researching it, and then realized I'm deep in agents both on the interface and operator side. But now I know that they're the channel as well. So thank you for making it so practical and approachable. And let's just go through, or maybe we can share in our Oh, I see now there were some audience questions that we didn't answer. Sorry for that. But maybe each of us can share in the chat how to get in touch with our companies and learn more about what we do, because I'm sure the audience would be interested in that for their favorite panelists. Let's see. Let me just look really quickly at this last question. I think the last question in the last 3 minutes is around how should marketers start using tools to track AI mentions and citations for queries, and how should they think about creating content for AI? Marcel, this is like right in your crosshairs. Do you want to talk about that one a little bit?
What we do for customers quite a bit. And I would say, first of all, gain a deeper understanding of your customers. And so what that means is like understanding like their jobs to be done, what questions they have. And then from there, you can map out all the things they care about, both informationally and commercial related. And then you can start to figure out, are you showing up for those? Do you have the best answer to those questions? And then figure out a way to systematically become the best answer to those questions and track along the way if that's having an impact or not on those answers. And so a lot of the things that matter to humans and becoming the best answer still apply to ranking well and showing up well in those answers. It's just you have to do more because the long tail is longer, and a lot of the questions that people might have during your sales process are now becoming, upfront in their research as well.
Well, agents being created by some of us on the phone, agents operationalizing our work, and agents talking to agents very quickly here in our future. I just want to thank all of you. And I don't know if Julia's here. Let's see. Hi, Julia.
Hi. Incredible session. Thank you so much, Carolyn. And we have a question from the audience for you.
More questions?
Yep. People are asking about the CMO tenure and your thoughts on it shrinking and what's the implication with agents.
It's a really strange time in AI native companies. If you look at OpenAI, Cursor, and Anthropic, companies that have grown in AI astronomically quickly with very small marketing teams and without CMOs for part of that time, certainly in their early days, it seems like the role of CMOs is becoming even more hands-on and technical. And Kevin is one of the CMOs that I admire most, who's like been really deep in building all of these orchestrations. So I think it's a challenging time for CMOs as heads of growth and people within the org can do more and make a bigger impact much faster. And it could lead to shorter tenures in some roles, but hopefully strategic CMOs that stay in front of it and like hire the right team and set a vision will continue to extend their tenures as well. Kevin, do you want to say anything else about that? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Add one quick thing, just because we talked to so many CEOs, and I would say the number one thing is I talked to CMO Zapier and several others. They're like, I can't find a CMO that's hands-on and can be a top-notch practitioner and be in the weeds as well. And so if you're a CMO and you've been disconnected from the work for years, go change that, because otherwise I think you're going to be out of a job. Sorry to Kevin.
No, I agree, Marcel. I radically agree. I'll tell myself the same thing I share with my team. I always tell them, hey, you don't have to worry about AI taking your job, but you do have to worry about someone who knows AI taking your job. And I think that's true for CMOs. And I talk to myself, and what is that? I mean, I literally block off time for myself to go dark and just play and tinker, and that's the only way. You got to like roll up the sleeves and do stuff. And so I think I agree. Like we have to get more hands-on and get our hands dirty and push our whole, not just our teams, but our entire organization, because it's changing everything. Risk tolerance and speed of execution and all that, because we're talking about go-to-market and the shifts there, but it's also changing all aspects of SaaS. And so I think we got to be at the tip of the spear on that.
I just want to share something final. In my previous company, I went on stages and explained everybody why I think the chief customer officer job is the most difficult one in the company. And I can tell you, after spending 2 years in marketing, especially where the market is right now, CMO job, man, that stuff, it is difficult. And you guys are right. You have to do all those things. The future is unclear, but I think that's the opportunity. The future is exciting. And I think everybody that will align themselves into, let's be innovative, let's be hands-on, let's evaluate, let's experiment. That's what gets me excited. And I think this is what will help CMOs in their future careers.
Incredible session. Thank you so much, Carolu, and everyone. And we are transitioning to our demos. Lisa,